Namda Kunga Chodo Susanwa Yishi Jato Sergin Chabanjiden Sumna Lamia Gombo Shonye Jona Chaz Senjon Dembati Menda Veshe Serdon Rawa Jona Chaz Dire Jana Seba Sumaje Nyame Kenje Jona Chaz Gombo Tuje Jedemba Tamje Kembe Demba Sonamayan de Jazu the Shenjala Chaz and Lotaben de Jatewa Giving Yes on the Twitch. Chido Television was Shenjala Chaz and Lotenet Lavatala Rabune Shingadamba the Gidela Chaz. The Wajia Misha Shingawa Pizzo was a Ragas in the Yosu. Tenesa Jedamba Yakamara Rimamenda Jumasa Chibur Milam Loda Jenda Bundishan de Rata Sonam Dia Tam Jessica. Commandum de Jinja de Gada Nada Shiva Lamdru. Sibes and Wonder Warrior show to the teacher, the blessed one being, the four destroyed, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugatan the Lord of the world, supreme light of beings to retain, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the subject. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one born beyond, the full destroyed, the completely perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugatan, the Lord of the world, supreme light of beings to contain, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the subject. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one born beyond, the whole destroyed, completely perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugatan, the Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to contain, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the shadow. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When I was supreme among humans, you were born on this earth. You paced outside strife and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, almost supremely pure, the wisdom ocean like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, winner of the best, to you I prostrate. With the spring sides, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the three worlds are known. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, teacher having more understanding, the field merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one grown to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtues which frees one from the world, the one path, sublime pure reality, and the Dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, a holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the
a star, mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bottle, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See, conditioned things as such. Through these merits, the essential beings attain miracle, all see, subdue the flow of faults, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jado Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Dage Jazo Jebe Sonam Jaya Dola Beja Sanje Drube Sanje Jado Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Jaya Dage Jazo Jebe Sonam Jaya Dola Beja Sanje Drube Sanje Jado Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Jaya Dage Jazo Jebe Sonam Dola Beja Sanje Drube Sanje Jado Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Dagi Jesu Jebe Sono Dola Benje Sanjin Show.
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Lama, and the Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Tamji Jamala Jan, Zelon de Sanje Jim de Disha Dajan Yanda was over Sanje Riboda Japan. The Varesha Vaji de Vaji Pondiva, Kaloji Mala, Sanje Jim de Asu. The Shin Java de Sonanda Bejutum, Gavezawa, Namachumas, and Severa, the Sonam Jeteran of Jishi. Peje, some one of Java Sena Jemedo, Jurimba, Matona, Obragawa. Sheriff Sigimid of Tona, the one of Simjatam Jejutan March, Joseph Java, Public Jebo. Yangele de Botonjil and the one that Jeteva Yishabatam, Obasanji Major, the son of Yanim, which is the Chomija. Kuzumame, the Watagama, the Soda Ganyama, the Sume Watadam. Dunella number to Bopomota, and the Batu Bakana, the vacation of the one machine, which you don't want to learn about. Sivale to a show and give a Yion to the Majama, Sanjay Jim there. Yangel and the one made a Yanda one Yatalan, Simjatum Jama Sibes and Shubat. The Lande Sanjay Jim Denny, which you the Yanda one vision of Tomagava, Tomagava, Tomagava. Sindrusamo Mandeba Yonzo, Yonzo Taba Yonzo, Yanda one Nemba, Tushiva, what the Tom Kevan and Jesus and Ribaji, Jim Denny, Levas, Michel, Walla Levato, so much I don't know what you the Vatan, the Matema, you watch it, watch it, watch it, Charge a visit was on the BGC, so John Benazo, Kuno, Benazo, Kangi, no, danger, no, woman of the Sojo, so bad, Sanjay, no chance. So we are on page 205. Refuting arising from others. I think, yeah. Refuting arising from others. So this has two parts, stating the opponent's standpoint, refuting that standpoint. The stating the opponent's standpoints, Buddhist essentialist schools assert the following. Since arising from self would be pointless, self-arising is untenable, and since that does not exist, arising from a combination of both in self and other is also untenable. as for arising from no cause. So this is the utterly, deplorable and deserve to be rejected. So however is arising from other cannot be rejected, as done so in the line, how from something others. So the furthermore, because the scripture stated that four conditions intrinsically distinct from their effect are the causes that produces things. One has no choice but to accept arising from others. So so this kind of essentialist schools means an essential. I think from the standpoint of the essential schools, anything that is being separate, that being distincted, and then that's kind of how you call it others, right? And in the Prasangika school, they're saying that being separate and then distincted are done by the conception. It is not by essential from the object side. So therefore, anything that is distincted, anything that's being separate is not necessarily different. So because of the continuity, the continuity means things that are, continuously existing, the past, by disintegrating the past, and then, arising the present, by disintegrating the present and arising the futures. So because of this continuity, you cannot call it others. You cannot call it different. So if the difference cannot be continuity, right? Like the orange is not continuity of the apples. So table is not continuity of the computers. So rice is not continuity from the barleys, right? So because of the continuity, there is no kind of, it is not right to see, difference in the continuities. So, but still there is a separate and conceptual distinctions by naming it cause and effect, right? And then kind of seeing them existing in orderly in the time sequence, right? So it's being separate. It's conceptually distinct, but it's not different. So the essential school, everything that is like, when you see the apple and orange are the different, and then the cause and effects are different. Yesterday and today is different, right? So because everything is, intrinsically distinct. As to what these four conditions are, some schools assert the following: the terms the causal conditions, causal continuum causal conditions refer to five out of six, excluding the active cause, as stated in the line from the Treasury Abhidhamma, that what is the called causes refer to the five causes, and the objective condition is found in the line. Objective conditions include all phenomena, that is, all phenomena that are object of six consciousness. So the antecedent, right? Antecedent conditions is as found in the line, the mind and derived factors that have arisen, their final instance, not of the same kind, is the immediately preceding, meaning all the minds and the mental factors that have arisen prior to the entering nirvana without residue. The dominant condition is the active cause,
as stated in the line. What is the called active cause is the dominant conditions. So the 6 causes are, as the Treasury Abhidhamma says, active causes and simultaneous and homogeneous and concomitant. So which means causal, active cause, simultaneous cause. So active cause means something happened in the something happened, cause the effect that arises from the previous cause as active cause. Like out of ignorance, there is a karma. From the barley seed, there's a barley sprouts, right? Active cause, and also active cause, also including, because of the air, there's a heat, and because of the heat, there is a liquidities. Because of the liquidity, there is a solidities. So this is all active cause. And active cause also including the objective conditions. All of this is active cause. The simultaneous cause. This was Abhidhamma's text. So this all accepted in essentialist schools. The simultaneous cause. Simultaneous cause means cause and effect producing each other simultaneously, or kind of affecting each other simultaneously. Like within the one body, there's a heat and the air are simultaneously and affecting each other as a simultaneous. So in all the particles that remain simultaneously existing within the pot, within the table, are all affecting each other. So this essentialist school thinks that cause means something that benefits to benefiting others, something affecting others is known as a cause. So there must be simultaneous cause and effect. So generally when there's a cause and effect, they always kind of they remain in orders, cause and after that effect, right? So the essentialist school thinks the cause, the meaning of the cause is, to benefit, to helping something to be remain, right? Helping something to be remain, helping something to be change is the cause.
Is it always positive or can be negative?
A negative too, yeah, and a negative, yeah.
It maybe just assert that it happens at the same time, not that it goes in a specific.
So the Abhidhammas, the Vasubandhu thinks that cause means so something, because of something that helps other to change negatively or positively, right? Happy or suffering, whatever. So that means it's cause. So in that sense, you can find the cause and effect simultaneously, right? So the elements within the body is the elements helping each other to sustain, right, and to destroy. So, so the Abhidhamma, according to the Abhidhamma text, so there is, the cause that are simultaneously existing. So then the some cause are kevanyama, means homogeneous kevanyama. Kenyams means now. So this some cause is always produce the similar. Like for example, the kevanyama means barley seed produces the barley, not the rice. The rice seeds produce only rice, not the tomato and not the barleys. So the kevanyama, because so the human being, some of the human being actions that produces the same type of life in the next human being, right? So some of the human being actions is going to produce the different life, different form of life, like human to animals, animal to human beings. So so homogeneous means the same type, right? So so now, what is the example of the homogeneous cause is the human actions, human karma that is going to be, give rise same type of human life in next life. So that is the human homogeneous cause for that. So which means the human being is not necessary to be born the same type of life, right? So Gyawanyambas. So concomitant cause means now we call kundo service. Kundo means something that is so this is more referring to the negative actions and the positive actions, something that has force to give the result or negative consequences or the positive consequences. So that is called concomitant cause. So Kundu door in Tibetan kind of language, Kundu door means like literally the Kundu door means moving all the time or moving in certain directions. So something that determining to kind of constantly, continuously born in cyclic existing, and something that determining that you are going to be born in a lower realm or higher rebirth. So that's the Kundadora. So that is more to action cannot be, in that case, action should not be a neutral. It has to be positive or the negative. So it determining where to born. Yeah, maybe, yeah, I'm a mistake. Concomitant is the chungden, pervasive is kundo, pervasive. So what I'm trying to say is pervasive cause. So pervasive cause, which is determining the particular specific kind of rebirth or specific consequences. And concomitant is like Tsumbar Dembas. Now Tsumbar Demba means, and according to Abhidharma text, the concomitant cause only with consciousness, the mental factors. So like eye consciousness, which being produced by previous consciousness. For example, eye consciousness, which is recognizing any particular color or the shape, is due to the mental factors, mental faculty that is being driven towards the colors, or mental faculty that is, observing towards out of desire or kind of out of curiosity. So that generates eye consciousness to, recognize and apprehending the certain colors. And eye consciousness is also generated by, for example, if the eye consciousness is focusing, concentrating on a certain shape of the color, due to, previous air consciousness, by disintegrating it, by being seized. So when the air consciousness is seized, mind, shifted from the sound to the color. So when the mind shifted from the sound to the color, that helps eye consciousness to be able to concentrate, to be able to apprehend the color. So the cessation of the air consciousness prior to the eye consciousness is the concomitant cause. And the mental faculties, that is, before it was focusing on the sound, then being disintegrated or being seized in order for eye consciousness to focus on the color. Right. This and then Abhidhamma's, according to the Abhidhamma text, this only possible with the consciousness, not the physical form. And the Buddha Palita and the Chandrakirti is the opposite. So the concomitant cause means the immediately preceding conditions. Immediately preceding conditions, the clay that's almost ready to become the pot, almost ready to become, the next moment is become the pot, right? And that very clay is concomitant. That's an immediately preceding cause for the pot.
Physical.
Yeah, physical. So even the physical, there is a concomitant cause. Right? So pervasive cause, like as I mentioned earlier, the positive or the negative karma. And ripening cause. So that's also, to determining the different realms, different realms. So these are the 6 causes they assert. So 6 causes. When it comes to the condition, they all says the 4 conditions. Some schools, based on the statement that which creates something is it cause, assert that following, that which abides in state of its producing seed, its causal conditions. So now kind of trying to defining what is mean by the causal conditions. So which abides in the state of it producing seed, its causal conditions. So, so this is like every cause, every functional things which have the potential to give rise certain effect. So that is the causal condition. Causal conditions. And just as in the example, this objective condition means just as in the example of an old man standing up, the object that's served like walking scans for the mind and the mental factors that are in the process of arising are their objective conditions. So something by relying on something, and then something has been produced or generated. Like by relying on the color, the eye consciously produce. By relying on the sound, the air consciously produce. So relying on the taste, the tongue consciousness. So these are the objective conditions. So and then the final moment of the cessation of the cause is the antecedent conditions of the effect that is arising. So as I mentioned, just cessation just before the just before the particular cause, something has to be ceased in order to this thing happen. Right? So the immediately preceding conditions, antecedent cause of the effect that arises. For example, final moment of the cessation of the seed is the conditions immediately preceding the origination of the sprout. So last final moment of the seed, and by seizing it, by ending, and then giving rise to the sprout. So that the final state of seed is the immediately preceding condition of the sprout. So in the Prasangic school, immediately preceding conditions, concomitant cause is, can be understood with physical things, right? So I think here, what they're trying to say is they are trying to understand how the cause and effect functioning in many ways and different ways of cause and effect. At the same time, is implying that the Bhagavan is not the cause for the existing of the human being, the existing of the human lives, and Bhagavan is not responsible for it, because if the Bhagavan to cause either has to be active cause, or immediately preceding cause, or the objective cause, or the the cause of within the so Bhagavan is not the causal condition. Bhagavan is not the causal condition for the existing of the human being. The Bhagavan is not the objective conditions for the existing of the human being. Bhagavan is not immediately preceding condition for the existing of the human being. So the Shiva or the Ishvara is not the cause for the existing of the human being or animals or planets or universals. So if the Bhagavan is the causal conditions, and we should be we should exist much better, because the Bhagavan is the is the seed. So the seed of the Bhagavan, the seed Bhagavan is complete and perfect and peace ever, right? So from that, anything that we produce, how can that be suffering all the time, right? So he is not the causal conditions, and he is not immediately preceding conditions, because the Bhagavans, they never die. So the immediately preceding conditions, something ceased to happen, therefore this thing happened, right? And Bhagavan is also not the objective conditions, but because they having seen him in the reborn, right? So by reflecting or by relying on him, and someone have an animal, some become the human being, some become the hell being, some become God being. Right? So there is no reason to think that Bhagavan is the cause or the creator of, and at the same time, essentialist school and non-Buddhist school, the cause and effects are different. If the Bhagavan and you are totally too independent, so how can he give rise to you. Like how can barley seed can give rise the rice sprout? How can orange give rise the apples? So, and now this comes to the area they were saying, so continuously the existing of your three realms, human realms to the form realm, form realms to the desire, the formless realm. So the different realms that you born, the existing of your three realms is there is no there is no third person other than yourself, the cause of that. So your action is the cause of your three realms. So which means you are the creator of your realms. So when you see your action is the responsible for your realm, your human realm, your God realm, your formless realm, or your animal realms, the high rebirth, like so if your action is the only responsible, right, for your different realms or your different lives, and your impermanence natures, your instantly changing is nothing. Impermanent, impermanence, your instantly changing impermanent is the Lord of the Death. There is no Lord of the Death other, rather different from your impermanence. Your time is the one that continuously disintegrating, is the cause for the death. There is no Lord of the Death who is deciding when to die, how to die. So your time is the Lord of the Death. Your action is the Bhagavan. Your action is the Creator. Which means, which means you are your own Creator. You are your own cause of dying, birth, aging. So the commentary says that, for example, the final moment of the cessation of the seed is the antecedent concomitant condition of the sprout. And the clear word 2, the clear word is from the Chandrakirti, his refutation of intrinsically real antecedent condition is done in the relation to the antecedent concomitant condition of the sprout. Buddhapalita upheld the similar positions. So there is a tradition which an antecedent concomitant condition is accepted even for the material things. So as I mentioned, immediately preceding conditions in the Prasangika school accepted within the material things, not only the consciousness. So now the dominant conditions is that which, when present, the other effect comes into being. The clear words state that such conditions include what has arisen before, that which is arising concomitantly, and that which will arise subsequently. Dominant conditions which present and the other come into being, like the present of the color that produces or generates the eye consciousness, present of the sound that generates the ear consciousness. So arising concomitantly, tsumbas. So it's tsumba demataji, like from the last moment, the end of the seed is concomitant condition for the sprout, right? So it's so commentary 2 describe the letter to the same way. This is identical in the meaning to the statement in the lamp of the wisdom that reads the condition as postulated by the other schools, conditions as postulated by other schools, such as the immediate conditions that is in front of us. So the conditions that are in front of us, existing condition and the no longer existing conditions, where the translation of the terms seem in fact better. So the Baba Vivek, he the way he kind of describe the objective conditions, means things that are before you. So like colors that are before you, right? And the sound. So that's the one of the condition. And so the existing conditions means because of the existing of the seed, even the last moment of seed, that give rise to the sprout, that makes the existing of the sprout. So, and no longer existing condition means something, because of something has ceased. The very cessation of that is the immediately causing other to be manifest. Right? So existing and no longer existing, existing conditions. So this is how the Baba Vivek, he kind of described the conditions, where the translation of the terms is better. As for the meaning of this passage from the Baba Vivek, lamp of the wisdoms, our Lokita Varthasa, explanatory commentary says the following. So the line that's stated in the Baba Vivek's text saying, the immediate condition that is in front of us, so the objective condition, the postulated by the Satvitra. So, this is like more school, Vabhashika school and the Sudantika schools, Nedembe Devas. So more like Theravadan's kind of, school of thoughts. So refer to the objective condition that has arisen directly before your sense, right? The existing condition refer to the causal and the dominant conditions. Something exists, therefore something happens, right? So while the no longer existing conditions refer to the antecedent conditions, so they assert. So antecedent conditions means something ceased, therefore something happened. Without having seized that thing, this cannot be, right? So, there's a debatable, and Lama Tsongkapha's the disciple, Kiru Rinpoche, and he says, Namshi Tenshi Chabayi. Namshi Tenshi Chabayi, the Mekashi. So this like, if your mind, if your mental faculties is too kind of focusing or attached to the sound. So, and while your mind is focusing on the sound, you are attached to the sound, and there is the air consciousness, but at the same time, you can have eye consciousness, seeing the color, but that eye consciousness is not being able to apprehend the colors, right? If your mind is so focused on, kind of fixated or attached to the color or the shape, so at the same time, you can hear the sound, but you do not apprehend the sound. What is the sound coming from? What kind of sound? is the elephant sound or the dog, right? So now more towards here, they're talking about the consciousness, that being able to apprehend the object is because of something has to be ceased earlier, right? So this causes the conditions. It's no longer existing conditions refer to the antecedent conditions, so they assert. So were we to examine their characteristics, despite some slight variance in their names, all the conditions can be subsumed into the four conditions, since Ishvara and so on are not conditions. So the Bhagavan is not the cause for the existing of yourself. Bhagavan is not responsible for you born in a human being. Bhagavan will not be responsible for you going to be born in hell realm or animal realm. So there is no fifth conditions. If there is a fifth conditions, now not the causal conditions, not the immediate preceding condition, not the objective conditions, and not the dominant conditions. So if there is the fifth, then that fifth should be, for example, if you wish, so when you wish something, like you don't want to cook, I wish there is a fried rice before my table. So if that happened, that's the fifth conditions, right? Just by kind of the will of God, and something happened, that is fifth conditions. God says, I want this human beings more peaceful, and we are happy. And God says, I don't want these people to be happy, so they are not happy. So if that's the kind of fifth conditions. So here it's there is no fifth conditions. Nothing happened at will of someone. Right? Nothing happened out of whim. Nothing happened without a cause. So nothing could happen if the cause is different from the effect, like from the orange to the apple, barley seed to the rice sprout. So that's why there is no fifth conditions, because the Bhagavan is not the objective condition for the existing of the cyclic beings. Bhagavan is not the immediate preceding condition for the cyclic being. Bhagavan is not the dominant condition for the objective being. Right? Bhagavan is not the causal conditions. Causal conditions are always like seed and sprout. Right? So when the four conditions, there is, there's no way you can understand the Bhagavan has been causal condition or immediately preceding condition, objective conditions. So, not the fourth. If there is the Bhagavan that you can find is the cause for the existing of the sentient being, cyclic existence, then so how he should produce, how he should create the human and animals, different realms. So he has to be created out of his will. You say, I want this, therefore things happen. If we are happy and not happy at will of the God or the Bhagavan, so Bhagavan, so always responsible for our suffering, the happiness. So that kind of Bhagavan is not really necessary to be existing, because he keep deciding what to do, what to feel. Ishvaras, so on, for the things arise in sequence. So this is how they accept the notion of four conditions, refuting that standpoint. Now, in Prasangik school, and the Chandrakirti says, this is how the essential schools describe the four conditions. So this refuting the standpoint, this is twofold, refuting in general the standpoint that assert arising from others. So the essential school, so the four conditions or the six cause, so they think this cause and effect are different, right? Like homogeneous cause, like the particles that are independent, separate, different each other, but still affecting each other. So the cause and the effect are intrinsically they're different. Refuting in general the standpoint that assert arising from others, refuting in particular the Chittamatra standpoint, refuting in general the standpoint that assert arising from others. This has 5 parts: the actual refutations arising from others, rebutting the objection to this refutations from the worldly perspective, the merits of the refuting arising from others, how intrinsic arising does not exist in any manners, the benefit of negating the intrinsic arising on the both level of two truths. Now here the causal actual refutation arising from others. So nothing can born from others, right? No effect that can arises or the born from different cause. So when in this the refuting the rebutting the objection to this refutation from worldly perspective means now, and people may, so there's a kind of ambiguities. If you assert that any effect that cannot be born from others, so any cause cannot be different from their effect, right? So if you think that, and why do we, in the worldly perspective, we see the seed and the sprout in a different time? So there must be they are different. The barley seed and the barley sprout are different, and mango seed and mango tree are different. So this is how, in mundane perspective, they perceive. So the cause and the effect always seem to be different. If someone asks, raise these kind of questions, so that Chandrakirti in the Prasangik school, they says, this is not the mundane perspective. Mundane, they don't really assert the barley seed and the sprout are different. Mango seed and mangoes are different. If the mundane assert that, and why the mundane, we say, if you plant, all right, if you plant the mango, and then mango trees born from that seed, and why mundane people says, pointing at that trees, this is I plant. The mundane do not says, I plant that seed and this came. Right. So mundane says, this is what I plant. Right. And 3 years before, 2 years before. And the mother kind of, pointing at her child says, I gave birth to this. Mother won't say, this child has born from others. So if you bring the mundane perspective to, to find a way of thinking, yes, cause and effect are different. Effect born from others. And then said, mundane, they don't really say, they don't kind of assert in cause and effect are different. So the merits of refuting us. So what is the benefit from them? What is the, what you can understand by refuting the cause and effects are the different. So cause and effect, but by refuting or negating the cause and effect being different. So so you come to understand, right? So the cause and effect are not different, they are not same. So they are not same, they are not different. So knowing cause and effect are not same, not the different. This is similar to the myself, no different from the body, myself, no different from the feeling and perceptions and mental factors and discrimination awareness. At the same time, myself is not same or identical with body, feeling, and discrimination awareness, mental factors, and perceptions. So, which means the existing of myself exactly like, mirror image. It exists due to the face in the mirror, the contact of that, but the reflections, they merely exist dependently. Reflection has no independent, or is not independent exists. Reflection has not existing, is not exist from its own essence. So the myself, I, is not existing by its own essence. It existing because of the, because of the aggregates. And the aggregates, 5 aggregates, and the activity of the 5 aggregates, and conceptually designate, I am right now a human being. So then you have new bodies, and then I am, elephant, I am horse, I am God, right? So when the bases are changing, the designations of the self is also changed with that. So there is no self that independently existing in the same manner all the time. So like, so human being also, like, for example, as a human being, when the childhood, so I am 6-year-old, I am, 6th grade, I'm in 7th grade, I'm in 9th grade. So this whole changing. If the I is independent, so if the I is independent and it independently becomes 6th grade and 7th grade, so when you in a college and you can bring your, 1st grade and 2nd grade, 3rd grade, all this you with you, right? So then the mother may confuse. I have too many boys. so yeah, when the bases are changing, so when the bases are changing, by having seized the one basis and you move to another basis. So which means is existing of yourself with, youth, right? adult and age is existing of yourself is like, the reflection of your face in the mirror. So when the basis change, and it changes. So yeah, that's kind of gain developments means then you can see nominally existing of the self. So how intrinsic arising does not exist in any manners. So intrinsic arising does not exist in any manners. Intrinsic arisings, intrinsic arising, if there is intrinsic arising, for example, if the sprout, arising of the sprout is intrinsically exist. So intrinsically exist means that arising of the sprout has done by itself. By itself, it is arising. So if the by itself is arising, and has it done during the cause or during the effect? If the during the cause, and then seed and the sprout and simultaneously exist, and the cause and the effect, or the function of the cause, function of the effect. So, like for example, so the function of the seed, the barley seed, is giving rise to the effect, right? And the function of this sprout is arising. If the seed, right, when the seed, when it has the quality of giving rise to the effect, at that time is arising of the sprout is already happened. So this seed is not necessary to give rise to it because it's already happening. So the arising of the sprout has never happened during the sprout, never happened during the seed. So, and also is undeniably it exists. So once you accept the seed is giving rise to the effect, and automatically comes in your mind, yes, the sprout is coming. But the coming is not during the seed, not during the sprout. So this is why the intrinsic arising does not exist in any manners. The benefit of negating the intrinsic arising on the both level of the truth. So the arising, intrinsic arising is not in conventionally, not in ultimately. Because this is like rabbit horn. So actual refutation of arising from others. Actual refutations of arising from others. The first has two parts: refuting by revealing absurd consequences, and rejecting the response aimed at avoiding this result. So now here they're saying that general refutation arising from others, revealing absurd consequences. So if the cause and effect are different, physically different, right? So if the cause and effect are different, if you think that yourself yesterday and today is different, so then the different cause, different things can produce another different thing. So which means anything that is different from the barley sprout can produce the barley sprout. Because the barley seed is intrinsically different from the barley sprout. and the rice seed is also intrinsically different from the barley sprout. So the both are equally intrinsically different. So anything that is intrinsically different has no relation. So having no relation, but it can produce the barley sprout. Why not the rice seed can produce the barley sprout? So yesterday yourself is different from yourself, and other people is different from yourself. So they are equally different. Why you have to face the consequences, that action that committed by yesterday yourself, not the action that is done by other people. So if you can, experience or consume the actions, that the result of the actions of yesterday yourself, which are different. So if you can experience someone else's actions, right? If you can experience the result of someone else's actions, so then why cannot have a delicious food that cooked in other house? Right. So if you want to eat, and you can just say, "Oh, I'm that person who is cooking delicious food." So, because yesterday yourself is no different from yourself, because you are the continuity of yesterday person. You are not continuity of other person. So that's the only reason no difference means nothing born from others. So rejecting the response aimed at avoiding these faults, refuting, revealing absurd consequences. This has two parts: actual absurd consequences and decisive analysis of these points. Actual absurd consequences. This arising from other cannot be posited, for it is contrary to reason and the scriptures. With respect to the latter, the thesis of arising from others contradicts many scriptural sources, such as the statement in the Rice Seedling Sutra, and that sprout of the name and form was not created by itself nor by something others. To explain that arising from other is contrary to reasoning. So the following is stated. So the Chandrakirti says, if something can originate from something other, then pitch darkness can originate from burning flames. In fact, everything could arise from everything. For after all, being others equally pertain to all non-producing things. So barley seed become equally different from rice seed, tomato seeds. Those are not, has no potential to give rise to it. So equally different, one can produce you, and other should be able to produce that sprout. If in dependence upon a cause that is intrinsically others, something an intrinsically different effect can originate. then pitch darkness can originate, right, from the burning flames, which are actually what is dispelled, and that which dispels. What is dispelled and which dispels. So the flame dispels the darkness. Darkness dispelled by this flame. So if the flame is produced by the, darkness is, originated by the flames, and how can flame can dispel the darkness? Which actually what is dispelled and what dispels, in effect, everything, regardless of the whether it is an effect, could arise from everything, whether it is a cause or not. Why? Because all non-producing things, insofar as being something intrinsically others, with respect to the effect, are exactly equal to those things that are accepted as a cause of that effect. So thus, these two extreme absurd consequences ensue from the opponent's own accepted reasoning. So opponent, the essential school thinks barley seed and sprout has to be different. So therefore, you're different because, because they're separate, because they are distinct, because they're they existing in orderly. So therefore, a barley seed and a barley sprout is the different. So therefore, barley sprout has to be born from other. So let me explain these two consequences, just as according to the opponents, the rice seed that produces the rice sprout is by virtue of its intrinsic characteristic, other than its effect. So intrinsic characteristic other than its effects. The rice sprout is in the same way those things that do not produce rice, fire, and charcoal, right? Barley seeds, barley seeds, and so on are also by virtue of their intrinsic characters, other than the rice sprout. So this is the way in which those who propound the other arising assert their positions. Now, if these two cases of being other are admitted as an equal, then just a form, just from rice seed and which is others. Rice sprout grows, then extension, right? The rice sprout should arise from the fire and charcoals and so on as well. Similarly, just as a rice sprout, which is other grows from the rice seed, things like vase, cloth, and so on too must also come from the rice seed. Like this, parallel are drawn between two types of others. This reasoning revealing such as extreme consequences is presented in the following, in the fundamental wisdoms. So, this kind of thing, no effect can born from others. No cause is different from its effect. So I think that's pretty much explained in the Prasangika school. Even the color is no different from the eye consciousness.
Are they also somewhat asserting that through that logic, there's no order? Because if it arises from, because he says, pitch darkness can originate from burning flames, which burning flames actually dispels. So are they actually also saying that there's a problem in that logic in like cause and effect and like the order?
So here they're saying, so I think here, burning flame is not going to produce the pitch darkness because it dispels the pitch darkness, right? So if the barley seed remain different from the barley sprout, like flame in the dark, like apple and orange, they remain cow and horse, like they're different. Seed and sprout are all different. Now the seed is going to produce the sprout. So while it's remain different, like apple and orange, still produce. Why not, right? So why not? Charcoal? So why not the tomato seeds can produce the barley sprout? So this is like the hypothetical consequences. So it's saying if the different when the cause and effect while remain different, like apple and orange, if they produce another, and then flame can produce originate that pitch darkness. So if the flame is not going to produce pitch darkness, and so how it is possible the barley seed that produces the sprout, which is a different from the barley sprout? So, for example, if someone, right, and like for example, Mr. A, while he's convicted from the crime that is committed by Mr. B. So A yesterday he has committed the crime, so A can be convicted today. Because the Mr. A and yesterday, Mr. A and today are no different. So the Mr. B is the different. Because of the Mr. B's crime, you cannot convict the Mr. A. So here, I think the main point here, saying the cause and effect are no different. By negating the otherness of the cause and the effect, now the question here is, the essential school thinks that when you negate, they're different. That through the consequence of accepting, they are same. So Prasangika school says we don't really we are negating the otherness. So by negating otherness, according to their misconceptions, right? Their misconception, we are negating the misconceptions. By negating the object of misconceptions, it's not necessarily, you accept the opposite. By negating different, you are not going to accept they are same. So, like say, when they say the monks do not drink a wine, right? By negating monks drinking a wine or whiskey, by negating that, it's not implying monks has drink milk or chai or any other drink. So simply here negating the otherness. So by negating otherness is not going to, it's not suggesting that you are accepting their sameness. Right? So which means the different and the same is not like black and white. So, so I think in the mundane or in essential schools, the kind of their seed is just like really, if you say, you know, if you say this is not white, and then the opposite of that is black, so we think, oh, he's referring to me as black. So if you see it's not black and it has to be white, and then so there's no place for orange and green or brown. So the self, the I, is no same with your body, no different from the body. So what this means is because it exists from your concept. So if you exist from the concept, not necessarily physically you can proving same of the different, right? So, and what are the nations? A forest, for example. A forest is a singular. So how can a forest is singular? So is it, if that is singular and by itself is singular, by itself is one, and how can that one become inseparable from the many trees? So one and the many are, the dichotomy. If one, it cannot be many. But a forest is one. If that is one by itself, and how can that be inseparable? So a forest is a singular by conceptually. So if that is conceptually constructed as a singular, and then it's not necessarily physically you can prove, oh, it's independent by one, independent by many. It can be one by construct. It can be inseparable from the many, like nations and persons. So nation is conceptually constructed. So we can say a nation, right? So here are the many of things that exist in our kind of, as an object of our consciousness, or many of the objects that is conceived, imagined, and perceived and engaged by the consciousness, not necessarily they exist by their own essence. So otherwise, if they're like countries, nations, and it can be, if the country is, if the country is measured or exists by the physically material things, then it cannot be expand, it cannot be shrink, right? So you can from the sky, from the satellite, you can see the clear kind of divisions. Oh, here is the gap. There's the India and Sri Lanka, right? Or India and Bangladesh. So United States and Mexico's. So you have to make in your mind to make a distinctions. There's a conceptually making distinctions. Like you see the Pomona and Laverne. So if you want to see with your eye, you cannot see the distinctions, division of the Pomona and the Laverne. But you just put some marks, right? And then you say, yeah, so that's the Laverne, there's the Sandimas, that's the Pomona. So many and singularity or the plurality is all conceptually. So to understand this whole conceptually fabrications, and with that, so the fabrications that is created or projected by the concept, So our emotional is playing or being manifesting or being active with those projections. So we understand these projections are merely projected by the concept. They don't have any essence by their own nature. And then that really calms our emotions. So Turban Yavasha, pacification of the mental construct is the way to calm your emotional or negative emotions. So that's the way to find the sustainable peace. So sometimes people are so kind of excited and very interested in this pacification of mental construct, and that kind of that led to more negating, and then all falling into nihilisms, and that is also the problems. So if the self is not existing at all because of not finding the same with aggregates, not finding different from the aggregates, therefore if the self does not exist, and then that is the nihilism. So self is existing, but depending upon the body, and self can be sometimes strong and tall and short. Self can be sometimes disappointed and happy. Self can be sometimes intelligent and adult. Self can be compassion. Sometimes self can be angry. Self can be attached, right? So which means if things, the basis are changing, your concept is changing at the same time. So with that, when there is the Buddha and his accumulations, 3 years of accumulation of merit that dedicated totally for the sentient beings, and then there is our faith that can withdraw this merit that deposit for you. So there is dependent arising. So the Buddha says from the beginning of his path, accumulating the merits, every merits to dedicate for every sentient beings without exceptions. So, and when you have a faith in the Buddha, and faith and Buddha's dedications together, and there can be seen something new object. It can be manifest as a deity, or it can be manifest as blessings. It can be manifest as successful purifications, compassionate, faithful, intelligence, everything. So things are dependent arisings. So no independent. So yeah, that's why sometimes the in the Thara prayer of the Thara, this Yawachava Tadula Yudawan Goyanas. Yeah, and others, some of the sutra is this by having seen, having imagining, having visualizing Buddha and the faith in that can be cause for the millions, the 100 millions Buddha can empower you. So and also Yawachawa Tadunam this, and the Tara this is by praying, kind of putting faith and the trust in the Tara can brings 700 millions Yawachawa Tadunam will bring the empower blessing to you. So this can it's not saying that just by praying to Tara and one time all the 700 millions Buddhas comes. So I mean, you are kind of, generating the potential, right? Potential to receiving the blessing from the 700 minutes of the Buddha. So the causal conditions, and then, immediately preceding conditions, the objective conditions, and also you say cause as a function of the giving rise based on the potential, and arising of the sprout, arising of the effect that is exist by depending upon present cause. So the arising of the sprout is not exists, or it inherently exists in any physical or material things. Is not arising. Arising of the sprout is not exists in the sprout, and arising of the sprout does not exist in the seed. It just dependent arises. So these are all, conceptually noble object that happen to exist, from the relation of the cause and effect. So when we talk about the conceptually existings, and sometimes we think, oh, these are mental fabrications. The color, smell, taste, these are not creations. It is solid. Again, when we come to the color, smell, sound, these are also creation, like existing like a mirror image. So they do not have any intrinsic essence. So the real creator is yourself, right? The creator of your life is yourself. So yeah, the Bhagavan is not right now. He is not the condition of the existing of any second existence. So and also if someone thinks that, oh, Bhagavan and the sentient beings are like a potter in a pot. So the potter designed the pot. The substantial cause of the pot is the clay, is not a Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is like potter. So again, there's a lot of, it's really difficult to claim that way. If he has to be there to design everybody. So that kind of, that's, if someone think that way, so it's kind of saying that when you plant the seed, if the Bhagavan is not deciding, I'm not going to help this seed, so you won't give rise any sprout. If the Bhagavan is not deciding, your mother's, or he's not with your mother, so say, I'm not going to let her give birth any boys or son. So that kind of, it's very obviously very absurd to think that the third person has to be there to produce something that is independent, right? So, yeah. Any questions? Yeah, that causes the effect or difference is not tenable. For if causes and effect are different, cause and non-cause will become equal. So yeah, if the barley seed is different from the barley sprout, so it's equal the barley, rice seed that is also different from the barley sprout. They're equally different. If one can give rise the barley sprout, and why not other can give rise the barley sprout? So they're equally different. So in the case of both these consequences revealing argument, the commentaries state that they throw their reveals. So the essentialist school kind of, what they, their concern is if you negate the barley seed is different from the barley sprout, and as a consequences, it throws the suggestion that they are same. So they don't want to say seed and sprout is same because they are cause and effect. They orderly exist, and then even size this potential on same, not the same. So the Pacific school says you don't have to, right? This has two parts. Extreme consequences ensue for arising from others, and demonstrating that is not the contradiction to accept the reverse of the consequences. So, as I mentioned, monks are not drinking wines, means just the reverse consequence is not drinking wine, that's all. Is not the drinking milk or chai. Right. So this is like non-affirmative negations. So every negation should not necessarily suggesting any affirmative things. Because the no different, kind of different, how's it different and same is not really what kind of day and night is right. If not day, there's night. Night, no night, day. So it's not like that. It's the same, and the difference is by negating the difference, it's not necessarily you have to accept opposite side being same. So what is the difference? Mutually exclusive and the dichotomy. Dichotomy is totally two opposite, right?
Yeah. Dichotomy is kind of like night and day, sun and moon.
Yeah.
And then mutually exclusive. Completely.
Like the snake in what do you call it? This mongoose, right? So mutually exclusive,
Because
but they can, they can remain exist at the same time, like owl and the crow, but they fight, but they exist together, right? So, so the seed and the sprout are in the different and the same, different and the same. So if there is a dichotomy, and then if this not if two things are not different and these two things has to be same, or if these two things are not same, it has to be different. So it's not really, you cannot say the seed and sprout is different not because of they are not same, or you cannot say they are same not because they are not different. So if that is the case, then you have to say, I am same with body. I am the body. Because you are not different from the body, therefore you have to be body. You are not different from feeling, therefore you have to be feeling. So each trees in the forest are no different from the forest. Each tree has to be forest. So I think the essentialist schools, they always see things like, like two pieces of, slice two, one thing that's sliced in two pieces, like a two part of the egg. So always see things like cut, right? The Prasangika school says this is just conceptually played and projected, and there is no independent kind of essence from their object. It's just things happen to exist, but dependently. So pratyeta is somewhat but dependently. Yeah. Why extreme consequences ensue for the arising from others? Here, some Tibetan assert that absurd consequences ensue for subscribing to the thesis of arising from others because cause and effect are, in temporal term, the necessarily sequential while otherness requires simultaneity. Yeah. So this is totally incorrect. So some of the cause and effects, because there are, in the sequence orders, they are orderly, there's a different, so therefore it has to be different. So it's incorrect. For in the case, all the fault, one has levels against the opponents to refute arising from others will equally apply to one's own positions. So now if one responds to this by saying we have no positions, then one's effort to seek the reason to refute arising from other in the first place become the pointless. So now many Tibetans assert that following the logicians establish entailment, for example, between fire and smoke, on the basis of specific intent as an instance of a smoke, or between being impermanent and being a product. They do so by establishing, invariably across all the place, all time. So the product in impermanence says indestructible relations. The smoke and the fires, the relations. So from placing one relation with one particular, like for example, impermanence product relations that is proving unshakable or indestructible or unmistakable relations with part, and you can draw the same things or same relation with body. So this is one some Tibetan they think. So and if you find the a relation of the smoke and the fire in your kitchens, and then you see, oh, there's the smoke, there must be fires. So it's a kind of similar kind of similar reason or similar the relations. So this some of the Tibetan says the specific instance in such relation to the kitchen in the case of fire and smoke, or the vase in the case of being impermanent and being product. And their aim then is to establish invariably between the two members of entailment by drawing the similarly across other times and place. So what Chandrakirti is doing here, these Tibetans assert, is to throw an absurd consequences against them by using the argument that insofar being other is concerned, all things are equal. They say that this type of arguments is a topless opponents of positions with the kind of domino effects. What you see?
Domino is like a game where you line a whole bunch of them up, and you hit one, and then it hits the other, and then they all kind of fall because of that first one you put.
Yeah. So I think this Tibetan masters, this logic, the kind of so I think this Tibetan master thinks that, for example, this body is impermanent. You do not know it's impermanent, but you want to establish this is the body is impermanent by finding the relations, product and impermanent in the table. Yesterday you bought table, now it's gone, it's broken. So anything that produced has the impermanent. This body is also born with impermanence. So this Tibetan master thinks this is drawing similar logic, similar kind of, what do you call the instance in one that happened to the others. So, and also this is like, for example, when you see the smoke and the fire relation in your kitchen, and you can also find others. So bringing the same instance to other places or the other time, and you may kind of draw the inference from that. So so what you're trying to say is, this Tibetan masters, they're trying to understand the Chandrakirti's kind of arguments refuting the otherness, saying like see apple and orange, see banana and mangoes, they're different. See horse and a cow, they're different, right? In this way, if the seed and sprout is different, and they should be seen like cow and horse together, the banana and tomatoes on on the table together. So if you don't see, and then there's no difference. So Lama Tsongkapha was saying, this is really kind of, you have studied, but you have not really understand the logic, how it works. So this is like, when you are, when you got sick by eating, food in one particular restaurant, and you say, oh, don't eat again. Yesterday someone got sick. So that means every food they serve has some kind of, problems, right? So this is, in the old time, the Tibetan master, they use that, how's that? The term they use, yeah. The means, and you can see those in India and Tibet. So the mountains. So when they carry the, things with the donkeys and the horses and the yak, right? And they all kind of, have chained together. So if you push from the beginning of the yak, and all fails because everything's just, chained together. So if you push the last one, they will drag you all things. So this master is saying, oh, this is like, things are chained together. If you pull one, other comes with you, comes with that. So during the inference is also like something happened in that, similar same instance happened in one thing that brings the kind of, that matches or kind of with others. So the Lama Tsongkapha is saying, so you don't really understand the logic. The inferential is convictions, is being convinced. So it's not like that happened, oh, now this may happen, right? So when you understand the table is being produced, therefore it is impermanent, it is changing all the time. And when it comes to understand your body is impermanent, first you need to know what produces this body. So the body is built kind of, to be, the consist of the 4 elements or the 5 elements, right? So each element is constantly changing, disintegrating. So that is the way to understand the body is impermanent, right? So you cannot say, oh, the table I bought yesterday and now is changing, and this body is also born from the cosmic condition. Therefore, it must be changing. It just maybe it's changing. I believe to be changing. This is not the inference, right? So Lama Tsongkapha says this is really kind of the Tibetan those masters this what they call domino effects, like playing game or domino effect. One kind of if you release one, and everything goes with that, right? This is the normally in the mundane life we do that, draw kind of chain of kind of acceptance, right? Like for example, this particular, like for example, if you see one Indian man and he cheats you, and you say, oh, yesterday I met one Indian that cheat me, now this is also going to cheat me. So this is kind of, the invalid, the unnecessarily invalid reasoning. So you're continuously, tied with anything that you don't want or you don't want to believe. So this is like more like domino effects. So the inferential cognition, so inference are not from this, how's that? Yeah, inference means gain convictions, being convinced from the valid reasoning. So the non-Buddhist school, they're saying, we call it invalid or incomplete or unfinished logic, saying that if you have the cherry tree and you pick the first rest look like the same color, same shape, and you say the rest has to be sweet because I ate the first, that is sweet, because they are all in the same size, same color, same shape. So there's unfinished, kind of incomplete reasoning. You cannot prove the first cherry is sweet because they are the same size and same shape, not necessarily the same taste. And then the non-Buddhist school also used some kind of logic. When you see the ants, they are kind of moving from one place to another, group that's moving, and they says this is the sign of the raining, right? So we see that in California too many times, but there's no rain. So this is like incomplete, invalid reasoning. So in Tibetan masters, because of tomato and the how's that, onions are different. Their looks different. They are in the size. They're different in the size, different in color. They're all together, but they're different. And the apple and the orange. If the cause and the effect are different, and there has to be simultaneously exist together. So that is not a valid reasoning to negating the otherness and the cause and effect. So today, because of the four conditions, everything, like, four conditions, what we understand, because of the impermanence nature of the phenomena, things are always changing. And then when the changes of the impermanence, the changes of the things, follows its own causal conditions. It is not following another cause, another condition, right? And when things are changing, the changing of the things is not done by itself. It's forced and powered by cause and the condition. So when things are changing and with the following its own cause and the conditions, not done by other, not done by itself, which means there is no, Ishvara that is responsible for their changing, their nature of impermanence. This is by nature. This is how they exist. So their existing is nothing to do with Bhagavan. And then you see there's a Ved Purans, sometimes Lord Vishnu's, Krishna, even when he gets so excited, like one time Krishna, he kind of, play as a kind of son of the Yashoda mother. And then Yashoda mothers, and then they moved to another, one place to another place. And then mother prayed to the Krishna, but she's not really knowing that her son is the Krishna. So when she praised Krishna, and the son was so excited, so happy over the mother's prayer, and he produced, he gave birth of many rice, many dal, many laddus, so too much. And then he said, when he said, oh, maybe I got a little bit excited, so it's too much. So they disputed the whole village they can eat. So the Krishna, by thinking, if he gave birth rice and dals and the laddus and all these things, so that indicates people who is hungry, Krishna is not mean to them. So he's not really, or he has no willing to help them. If he has willing, then just by willing, he can give birth, why not he can do that? No one should be hungry. Right? So these are the 5 conditions. Just at will, something happened. Out of whim, something happened. So it is similar to the no cause. Yeah, any questions? No questions? Chanju semja rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju jeba nyaba mewa ya, konde kondo pewash. Donye dawa rinpoche, ma jeba na jeju jeba nyaba mewa ya, konde kondo pewash. Pama semja tamche, dada neju je, ngendo tamche tatu kongwa. Chanju semba, kanda sushu, dada kunju, monon dukju ruji, pare rabe kowe shimas. Penda dewa madu juwa, jere soma, tinzin jatu. Shabe sede badu denju ruji.
May the precious body mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the bone have no decline, but increase forevermore. May the precious mind, realizing emptiness, not yet born, arise and grow. May the bone have no decline, but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all happiness. May all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Chandrakirti, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you much.
Yeah.